Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are joining us, either tonight live or later on in the recording. I am Stu, and joined again once again. Okay. Little rust there. Joined again once again. Joined once again by Mr. Aaron Pfeiffer TCR. Aaron, how's it going tonight?
What's up, Stu? I'm good. I'm a little bored. We're a couple
Aren't we
couple weeks
all?
removed from the season. Not not a ton to do when you're not a full timer in racing in the off season. So yeah, but finally a good race to talk about for me at least after some not so fun ones the last few weeks.
That is true. That is true. We were talking about before we went live here, it's the boring part of the season. You actually have to go and do your job. Yeah, gotta make sure the bills get paid somehow because racing isn't always isn't always it. Um, but you alluded to it there. Road Atlanta. We're coming off of the season finale for virtually all of IMSA's championships. I know there are a couple of support series whose seasons technically do not wrap up at Petit Le Mans, but for the most part, we wrapped up most of the championships during this weekend. We had in the MX5 Cup, we had a couple of good races, a really hard impact in one of them, actually in the final race of the MX5 Cup season, points paying race. We'll talk about a non-points paying race later on tonight. But a really hard impact there that ultimately ended the race a little bit early. It didn't decide the championship right then and there, but maybe took away a little bit of a good finish there. Of course, Gresham Wagner and Jared Thomas were duking it out there for the championship, separated by I think it was not very many points. It was like 2 positions on track that they were separated at the time. It was Gresham Wagner that ended up taking the championship win in the MX5 Cup. I know lots of the time, in the garage, whether you have a little bit of downtime or maybe you're just grabbing a bite to eat, you'll see the MX5 race on and everybody's head turns. Did you get an opportunity to see any of the races this weekend?
I did not get to see them live. I did see the wreck you're talking about, though. Scary one there. I don't remember who the driver was that crashed, but glad he was okay. I saw him post about it. Somehow it showed up in my Instagram feed. His onboard uh,
Oh yeah.
looked like a wild ride. But no better time to tub your car than the last race of the year. So I mean, you always look at the glass half full. But yeah, that was a scary one. Thinking back, uh, haven't had too many huge wrecks in IMSA this year. I can think of the Mustang Challenge wreck at Watkins,
Watkins
and
Glen.
then the GTP wreck at Sebring. Those are about the only 3 huge ones I can really that stick out of my head right now. But yeah, it's nice to see how safe those little cars. I mean, talk about not a lot of room before your body parts are near the wall in that little
Mhm.
Mazda, and yeah, they're very safe. We saw a big wreck last year with them at Watkins, and guys walk. I think somebody broke a leg, but still everybody walked away okay from
Yeah.
those. So yeah, always nice to see the track safety working, but yeah, I didn't get too much. Honestly, Stu, I didn't even walk across the bridge of
Yeah.
Mission Raceway Road Atlanta the entire weekend. I stayed right there in the support paddock. We park across the street. I drove to the entrance to pick up my wife and kids on Friday morning in a golf cart. That's about as far as I ventured away from our pit stall and paddock. So kind of a sad weekend for me. Road Atlanta is my favorite. So, and this was the first time I wasn't working Petite or attending Petite in the last few years too. I didn't end up coming back on Saturday. I've worked it the last 3 years, I think, and then I attended a couple before that, and then a lot before that, obviously. But so yeah, no, I just was over there in the support paddock the whole weekend.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't been to Road Atlanta, the way that the support paddock is, if you're familiar, you've probably seen these shots on TV at some point. The big, media center, VIP center, the tower that's 5 or 5 stories tall, is on the outside of the track, and also on the outside of the track is the support series paddock, the old paddock at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. The new paddock, which is on the infield side of the track, is just for the WeatherTech Championship cars this weekend. So so the WeatherTech Championship, they have their own pit lane, they have their own they have their own completely separate paddock area where all of the support series are on the I guess the outfield. Is the outfield a word?
I mean, the old paddock, yeah. I mean, that's if you go to anything that's not really WeatherTech or like the main
Motorcycles,
superbike,
did you say?
yeah, the main
Yeah.
superbike race that comes out there. Basically, everything all year uses the paddock that we're in. But yeah, and then yeah, from the WeatherTech paddock, you can travel like 6 stories up and be right there in the vendor village and right there at turn 10 and turn 3, depending on which side of the pit lane you go out. So yeah, but no, I normally venture around at some point, but yeah, ended up just staying over there. But it worked out, hard work paid off.
That's true. Yeah, I don't blame you for not wandering around too much, because yeah, the elevation there is no joke.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Some big hills walk around, which you warned me about
I did.
in the
I had
lead
I
up.
had I had a chance of either doing the track walk and walking it or squeezing in between Robert Wickens and Mark Wilkins on the front seat of a golf cart, and I elected for us to go 3 deep on the golf cart instead of walking up and down the hills of Road Atlanta on the track walk.
Yeah, that's reasonable enough. Lots of those rental golf carts, you could just hear them struggling to
Oh
get up the
yeah,
hill there. I'm
those
sure you
those
guys
things
had.
live rough lives. Those rental
Yeah.
golf carts, yeah.
I'm sure you guys have had a better golf cart than that for the track walk. Or
No, not really. We had a rental golf cart, so yeah,
oh
we had
no.
yeah.
Do you guys sometimes take the pit carts out to like
Not
on that track walk, or usually just rentals?
No, normally you're setting up that day, so the pit carts
Mm,
are one's in Tire World, one's probably getting nitrogen bottles, and then
okay.
you're tugging your pit stands down to pit lane. So they're normally all working that point. So no, normally on our team we rent golf carts. On teams I've been on in the past, we had a golf cart that rode in the truck. But yeah, normally there's a separate golf cart for drivers. Like Harry always has a golf cart. That's the one we end up using this season.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting. I guess it makes sense that you wouldn't necessarily have you wouldn't want to be bringing a bunch of golf carts to every race, because it's just taking up a ton of room in the truck, which I'm sure is at a bit of a premium when
Yeah, yeah, it's
when you're hauling
already
as many cars as you guys are.
yeah, it's already pretty packed in there. So yeah,
Yeah.
dragging a golf cart were really not an option with how much stuff we pack in the trucks.
So golf carts and elevation aside, we did have some racing to take place this weekend, and we'll leave. I'll touch on some of the other support series afterwards, but I think the race that we're going to focus on here today is, of course, the Pilot Challenge race, the season finale. We've alluded to it in previous episodes that the championship races have not exactly been super tight. And in fact, in the TCR class, again, there's no qualifying points that are handed out for the Michelin Pilot Challenge series. But there was essentially the championship scenario was the 17 Audi. They just needed to not finish last in the race based on the car count that was registered for the weekend, and the 33 would need to go on to a victory. As things would turn out, the car count would drop by 1 just prior to the start. of the race, and unfortunately, we would not even. Yeah, we wouldn't even have to worry about the championship. The 17 would just need to start the race. Did you ever hear what happened to that Honda? It was
Yeah, yeah. So we qualified Thursday night, pretty
yeah,
late, like 6:30, and during that session, the Baker car had an issue, and then the Racer's Edge car never even came out to pit lane, honestly. So none of us, at least that I was aware of on our team, had noticed that they'd had an issue in FP2. So I walked down the paddock to talk to some guys at the Pegram car, and right next door is Racer's Edge, and there's an engine sitting on an engine stand outside, and the tent is zipped up. And I was like, well, this isn't looking promising. So I asked the Pegram guys. They said, well, those guys blew an engine. That's the engine that they took out of the car. They've driven to Virginia to go get a replacement engine. They didn't have one in the truck, and they're going to try to get it and come back. And the crew went ahead and went to bed because they're going to have to get here at like 5 in the morning and put the engine in. So fast forward to the next morning, we get there, whatever it was, 9 o'clock or something like that. And I was like, well, I'm curious because, for the way our day was going to play out as a whole team, we kind of needed to know if they were going to enter. So I walked down there, and there's just one crew guy that I don't know at Racer's Edge, very nonchalantly turning a wrench on the engine. And I go, hey, did you guys get your new engine? Because I still saw the one sitting on the stand. And he goes,
yeah.
no, our team owner went up there. It's 3 in the morning. He's trying to get the engine in the van. He doesn't have any tools. It's in a crate. Won't even fit in the van. And then by the time he did the Google Maps to come back to Georgia, we wouldn't have even been here in time. So he called it off. So he was actually putting the old engine just back so the car could ride in the truck to go back to the shop. So,
Man.
I walked over and told Brian and Katie, our PR manager, I was like, hey, Racer's Edge isn't going to be in this championship's over. So, yeah, we knew it before we rolled out the grid that was going to happen. But, that's how racing is. We put ourselves in that position to need that. So, we had 9 other races to correct that and not be in that position. So there's nobody to blame about it. But yeah, it stunk. It kind of took a little edge off the championship battle. Obviously, all the JDC guys had to do is take the green flag. But I was shaking their hands on pre-grid, and one of them was like, "Please don't do this." He's like, "Please don't shake my hand already." I was like, "Oh, I could jinx you a little bit." So yeah, it was. We did know about that issue beforehand, but then I saw the Baker guys, and they had fixed their issues. They had a drivetrain issue, so that had plagued them in one of the either FP1 or FP2 and in qualifying. So I was talking to Sam on the grid beforehand, and he said that they were good to go. So I was happy to see that they had gotten their issue remedied. So yeah, we rolled off the grid with 11 cars, and we knew once JDC took the green flag that would be all she wrote. But that's how it is. We had it's just proof that these championships aren't easy to win, even though Brian Herta has won 5 in a row before that, and we still delivered the manufacturers championship. We had that wrapped up, obviously coming out of Indy. But yeah, I mean, I think it gives us all a renewed vigor to go out there. And I mean, you didn't have to get me any more fired up to try to go do it, but yeah, it gives us all.
Yeah, you're fired up going into this race.
Yeah, I'm fired up before all of them. But yeah, it gives us even more drive to go out there and get it back next year.
Yeah, definitely. It's I think you said it perfectly. It's unfortunate that it happened, but this was not the, straw that broke the camel's back. This was there were other opportunities that we had, or earlier in the season, and they just it didn't come to be. So
you can look at all 4 cars that finished behind them, and they could all tell you a story about where it went wrong, right? The 33 could tell you Daytona, The 98 car could tell you Mid Ohio and CTMP. I could tell you, Road America VIR Indy. The 93 guys could tell you, I mean, the whole front half of the season, I mean, they had
Yeah.
such great pace, and it was just things were messing up for them. And then JDC could tell you just the same. They literally pushed the car onto grid at Daytona like 30 minutes before green
Yeah.
flag, and they went out, won the race, and set the tone for the whole season. They never relinquished the lead the entire season. So a wire to wire victory. And I think TGM basically did that after round two. I believe that once we left Sebring, I think TGM was pretty much in the lead and held it for the rest of the season too. So really kind
Yeah.
of, I was thinking about today, it's really kind of proof that, I mean, a strong start, it's so much easier to play defensively in the back half of the championship than being on the offense. Having a lead and points to play with rather than just trying to go out there and chip away at a lead seems to pay off. I mean, obviously RS1 gave them a really big run in the middle of the season. They survived that. Same thing with JDC, right? We gave them really big run in the 76 car, and then the 33 car gave them a big run near the end of the season, and they survived both of those. So, yeah, that's how you want to win a championship.
Yeah, winning 4 of the first 5 races too is going to help. That's a pretty good start to the season for
Yeah,
sure.
and they wouldn't win anymore after those first
They-
5. Yeah, we
Yep.
needed like 2 championships there. Yeah, give them the first half of the season. I mean, somebody did beat them in one of those races. I can't remember who. But yeah, it was a crazy start for them, and obviously, you know, some BOP changes and other things happened that changed their fate a little bit. Obviously, they could have won it. They could have won five out of the first 6. I mean, look, CTMP. I mean, they were winning, and when they broke, so
It's
yeah,
true.
they were very, very strong.
Indeed they were. Indeed they were. Um, Looking at we'll touch on, again. You alluded to the GS championship a little bit there. We'll talk about how that ended up, but let's focus in a little bit on the race here at Road Atlanta. So coming into a race like this, you know that it's a tight track. There's going to be a lot of cars on track. I mean, I guess we only had 31 cars. I say only. That's still a solid field, but it is not as large as some of the races and some of the events that we saw earlier in the season. But 31 cars to take the start is a solid number, and you knew there was going to be quite a bit of traffic coming into this. We saw throughout the entire race, really, we saw the classic sort of beating and banging that would go on both interclass as well as between the GS and the TCR cars. But what were you looking for, and what were you kind of expecting heading into the start of this race?
Well, I mean, in qualifying, we were a little surprised at what good pace the Hyundai's had. Honestly, I mean, Hyundai's had the top 4 spots and 5 out of the top 6 spots. So we were kind of surprised. I mean, especially the pace the Honda had shown the last few races, and the pace
Yeah,
JDC has shown all year. The Baker car has an issue in qualifying. JDC also went off in qualifying. Um, he didn't get his laps removed because he got back going again, and the red flag came out for the Baker car instead. So yeah, I mean, going in, we're kind of like, okay, well, maybe we really do have the pace. Obviously, Bryson set the track record in TCR with his qualifying lap, and we have one of our best starting spots of the season for us for Preston in 6. It's a track he has a lot of laps on, so we felt pretty confident in it. But early on, I mean, it it was surprising how aggressive the racing was, I think. But seems to be that we've had a lot of those this year in the front of the race. And one mistake could really cost you. I mean, you'd see somebody mess
yeah,
up in 10A or 10B or in 1, and it would cost him 2, 3, 4 spots. I mean, Preston just was door-to-door racing with he was in a battle with with JDC and a couple other cars, the Alpha, and he went from Sam, and he went from sixth to ninth in 2 turns. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
quick it can happen. So, we have a one quick caution early. Um,
Yeah,
it
that
was
was
for
for
the Windward crash and the Core Mustang crash.
yeah.
And the Windward guys were pitted right next to us, and that car comes in making a lot of crunchy noises as it comes into the box. And they tried to fix it. I'll give it to them there. But
They sent it back. It got sent back out.
yeah, I think it
Yeah.
did, but they didn't finish because I know we weren't
Yep.
worried about them for pit stops. They ended up packing up. So you kind of have a little bit of field spread once you go back to green there, and then what if you need a caution all season long around the 40-minute mark to hour mark? What do you need?
Yeah.
You need a GT4 Porsche to screw up, and so we're coming down going into 10, and the camera zooms out and it's right at his feet, and there is the I think it's the number 808 car
Yep.
is in the wall right in front of him. So I tell Preston to box right there, and he had fallen back. We're P9 I think at that point, and the only other car that also makes that call with us is the Alpha. So we get a full service in, get driver changed, filled up with fuel. We jumped the Alpha in the pit sequence. Great stop by my guys. And we're going out. And it took a long time for them to call that full course yellow,
Yeah.
which is not ideal if you're in my situation. So I'm literally, I can see the pit exit and blend line, and I watch Bryson pass Denny by 5 car lengths, maybe, when we come out of the pit lane. And so there goes what would have been awesome strategy call straight down the toilet, right? So, if we get out in front of Bryson, obviously, we will have driven all the way back around. We would have
Yep.
been, or waved around it at the very least, and we would have been on the tail end of the pack, but we would have shuffled to the front through the pit exchange, right? We would have
Yep.
either, we probably would have most likely come back, splashed the car full of fuel, and gotten out before all those guys. So instead, we're a lap down. So never mind. That wasn't a good idea. It's all of a sudden a bad idea. So, then the whole sequence of a full
The
course
full
yellow.
court yellow is thrown eventually.
Yeah, it eventually came out. Yes. If
Yeah.
it had come out 10 seconds before or whatever, it probably would have been fine. But I can live and learn from a mistake probably I made about not just sitting the car out sooner. But so yeah, so obviously everything happens with the full course yellow procedure. We're gonna get the lap back, right? So we wave around, we get the lap back. We come in, splash for fuel, might as well, right?
Yep.
It's pretty tight at that point. I mean, there's still like an hour and 10 minutes to go.
Yep.
Um, right before we're going back to green. So we splash with fuel. Alpha's doing the same thing. So we're the only two on this strategy. We got a couple more laps of yellow flag fuel than everybody else, but all that counts here in the end. And then, I'm telling Denny to press to catch the back of the pack. And for some reason, he runs into the goo car. Doesn't actually physically run into them, but he's behind the goo car, and they are not pushing at full speed to get back to the back of the pack as it's about to go green. Still not sure why they weren't doing that. So it actually goes green, and we're probably like 8 seconds, 6 seconds back off of the next car in line. So
Yeah.
that really, I was like, well, now we're really in a pickle. Luckily, we would get a yellow a few minutes later for Sam's cut tire, and we would pack back up at that point and then kind of reset the race. But yeah, as soon as he comes off of pit lane, after we splash with fuel, I mean, you're working the fuel number at that point, right? Because you're an
Yeah.
hour and 10 minutes away on a 60-minute on a good day pit window. So yeah, we were having to hit a number as soon as we left, and then we get the yellow, lets us reset
So,
it a little bit.
but before that yellow came out, so you were still thinking, I think it ended up going green. I noted it. I think an hour and 5 minutes to go is what it was. So I know
Yeah.
you guys have had a lot of tight calls with fuel this season. So you're saying that, pretty much right from the word go in that stint, you were fuel save, like that we're trying to stretch this to the end.
Yeah, you're having to figure out what number I mean, what number you're having to hit to tell him to hit. So, every time the car passes the line, it's going to pop up a number on the dash, which is his leader's burn that lap. So
Yep.
that's the number you're having to communicate to him that he has to hit, right? And Dennis through what he did in practice and what he did on the sim knows, okay, if I need to hit this number, it's a whatever 10% save at this loss, 12% save, and so on. So I communicate that I'm just giving him the fuel number I need him to hit, basically,
Yeah.
and I and
So
I and I have to build in a padded lap, of course, as well
yeah.
because of how the clock's going to fall.
Yeah. And now you mentioned there that from practice and sim work, practice time is extremely limited in the lead up to some of these races.
Yeah,
What's the total amount of time? Do you know off
2
the top of your
hours.
head?
Yeah,
2 hours. So
that's if nobody
um,
wrecks or breaks. Yeah,
that's true. 2 hours of time. That's not necessarily 2 hours of green flag.
yeah.
Um, so you're able to bake in, I guess, a little bit of you know
No,
like
we have
driving to
very
a fuel number.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 2 or 3 laps, that's it.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a lot, Denny does a ton of work pre-event on the sim for
Mhm.
fuel save. That's where we really get a lot of it out of his iRacing numbers, and, but yeah, so, that's what we had to work off of, and that's that's what we're going off of. I thought maybe we'd have a little bit of an advantage because we had that little bit of extra fuel compared to the others. It
Yeah.
kind of gets negated though after that first yellow comes out, right? So that first
Yep.
or that not the first yellow, but what ended up being the last yellow. But
Yep.
the yellow for Sam, I think, was 3 or 4 laps. So kind of gets everybody to a more reasonable fuel number. But yeah, when we go green there at the end, I really didn't change the fuel number for him.
Yeah.
Still, I was still telling him to hit the same number as
It
before.
was
Honestly,
55 to go, I think, is
yeah,
55 minutes to go is when you guys ended up going back green, which is still, like even if you boxed during that, which you couldn't box during that full course yellow because it was a
short
short
yellow.
yellow. But yeah, even still, you're probably pretty comfortable at that point, but you're getting close to that sort of hour-ish mark that the class can usually run to.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, we went back green, and it was just more hard racing from there.
yeah. I mean, yeah, these races have been kind of crazy how similar they've been. So many of them, especially the sprints, all season long,
Yep.
with these big long runs to the end. Obviously, in the GT4 race, they couldn't fuel save it till the end.
Yep.
Finally, for once, they all had to actually make a second stop, and they all kind
Yeah.
of made it there early. Yeah, but for us, you're a few minutes into the run, and you're going, okay, it's like looks like everybody's going to try to fuel save it. The VGRT car ends up being in the lead. They're kind of pushing the pace a little bit more than you'd expect for a fuel safe number. We end up we get past a few cars and we're kind of stuck in P6, I believe, and we're riding right behind JDC. And we really just don't have the straight line speed to get past JDC for a while. And then finally, Denny gets them going into 10A, and they would end up boxing a couple laps after that, actually, which what do they have to lose, right? I mean, they're just
Yeah.
kind of on a joyride at that point. It seemed obvious that they weren't too worried about. They had that car halfway sold, I think. I mean, it's like let's put it back in the truck in one piece and sell it and buy a new one or whatever.
Bring it
They
home
were
clean.
they were on a victory lap. But and then the 77 car with Taylor in it, they ended up boxing, but everybody else stays on this fuel save, and that's when I mean Denny just really did what he always does. I mean, he just drove the hell out of the car. I mean, he took
Yeah.
I mean, we were like 15 seconds back or something, and he starts taking big chunky numbers out of.
I think you restarted, was it ninth or
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah,
around
yeah.
there?
We
Yeah.
restarted ninth. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, great work by me. I mean, what awesome strategy I did to put him in the car ninth. Out
Here's a
of
nice
11,
hole to dig out of, Denny.
ninth out of 11 cars. Solid job. So yeah, you can always look good when you have somebody like him on your side. So yeah, he was hitting his number and driving the hell out of the car. He gets Carl for P4 going into turn one, and then like 2 laps later gets um, Harry on almost the exact same move going into turn one again. So we're riding around P3, and you got like 15-ish minutes, I think, to go at that point. And, we kind of get up close to the 98 car, which is in P2. And then we're kind of sitting there for a few minutes. And there was one GT4 car that wasn't pitting. It was the other TGM car. And so where they were on
Yes.
the track was screwing up how many laps we were going to have till the end. So once
Ah.
they finally boxed, and then it turns out the GT4 leaders are right in front of us, then you actually know your fuel number. And I was able to turn him up a little bit, but at that point he had driven so hard we really didn't have any tire left. So I cut him loose to push the last couple laps, but I mean he's like there's no tire left, and so we really thought we were just kind of cruising in for a P3 finish,
Yep.
which uh, we kind of didn't have any pressure behind from the 33 and the 93. And then, coming to the white flag, you see Tyler, who was in the lead, pull into the pit lane, and would find out later that he sputtered coming out of 10A and pulled it into the box. And so, unfortunately, we had kind of fallen back a few car lengths from Mark, so we couldn't really press him on the last lap. But yeah, we take home a 1-2 finish for Brian Hurt Autosport for last race of the season. We'll definitely take it. I mean, that was our goal, was to get a trophy at Road Atlanta for our car for the 76 and go out on a high note. So yeah, that's what we did. So yeah, an interesting race. Interesting how this season has played out with the sprints being so similar in so many ways. I mean,
Yeah.
there's only one race I can think of where they had a late yellow that ruined the whole race, which was Road America. So yeah, if I didn't have that,
Yes.
then yeah, we might have had a different season. But anyway, so yeah, that was our race. We're pretty happy with it. The way the championship played out, we were tied with the 93 car. We had to finish in front of them to get P4 in the championship. We did that, so we secured second, third, and fourth for the team for the championship. The 98 actually ends up jumping the 33 by 10 points
Yep. I saw
in the
that.
final point standings to take second from those guys. So yeah, I mean, obviously the goal is to win the championship, but for me to end the season, if you look at the season we had the previous year at our old team, we had 0 podiums, we had fourths, we had breaking from first, things like that. So to come in here and get a win, 2 seconds and 2/3, I mean, it's when we listed our goals. I made up a list of goals for myself, Preston, and Dennis, and the crew before Daytona, and I mean, we hit it. We hit every goal, but one, which was finish every race, and that wasn't really in our control to finish every race. So yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
exceeded our goals, honestly. So yeah, we're happy with it.
I can imagine. I can imagine it. It was a solid season, a solid race for you guys. And the one thing I wanted to ask you about when you saw Gonzalez, slowing, sort of coming to the white flag. I mean, this is the same car that you guys are running. You essentially boxed. You came in and topped up, I guess. But is there ever does that make you pretty nervous when you see a car that's probably running out of fuel there with 1 lap to go and you're running right up the leaderboard like you were?
In some races, it probably would, but with
Yeah.
that lap and the amount of fuel we were burning and the number Denny read off the dash going to the white flag, I wasn't worried at
Yeah.
all.
I
I
guess you
asked,
said you allowed him to turn it up a little bit too
yeah,
earlier.
and
So
my fueler probably gets very tired of me asking, "Did you actually fill up the car all the way?" in these scenarios, because I probably ask it 4 times, like, in the last hour. I'm like, "You sure it was full, right?" And yeah, and I have a new fueler, Jeff, who joined us later in the season. He's great. And he was like, I promise it's full." So, yeah, we were good on fuel, but yeah, there's certain situations where, yeah, it could be concerning, but yeah, to us, something had to be up there because they had pitted like 6 and jumped everybody in the pit lane up to P1. So, we were like, did they short fill it, or something like that? It turns out they would get disqualified after the race for a fuel infraction anyway. But
yep.
yeah, so end of the day, it probably wouldn't have mattered. But yeah, overall, just uh, yeah, not as nervous as I could have been. I mean, if it was Daytona this year and my team another Hyundai had run out of fuel going in the last lap, then I would have been more nervous than I should have been at Daytona in the last lap when we did run out of fuel on the last lap, and luckily uh, got off the banking and fired the car back up and rolled it across the line for second. But yeah, no, I wasn't too nervous about this one in particular. Denny had done an amazing job saving fuel, and he probably oversaved fuel. So and still hit the lap time. So yeah, he's. I mean, honestly, obviously, Mark did a very, very good job as well on a fuel save and hitting a number. But I would put Danny up against anybody in TCR on a fuel save race. I mean, we did it several times this year.
That you did, and definitely got some good results out of it as well. It had I think, was it Road America that it didn't quite work out, but you had mentioned there was a caution in that race, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's so Road America will be the one
Does,
I. That'll be the one I remember this year for the wrong reasons. But
yeah,
I'm gonna remember the ones that we did right this year. I'm not gonna.
exactly.
Yeah,
Let Take the positives away.
yeah. So, and then if you look at the GS race, I mean that was a pretty compelling race. I was re-listening to the
Yeah.
race today, and basically, if you run back through the race quickly at the 40-minute mark or um before the full course yellow, a lot of them get in. Then the rest of them get in during that full course yellow. So everybody's really on the same strategy. They all have the drivers out as we go back to green on that one. But then none of them can make the number. So some of them boxed. I think like Rebel Rock was one of the first ones to box, and then they all box in the next 5 laps basically. And
Yep.
for some reason, just some guys decided to take tires again after they hadn't. I heard a lot of people were taking left side tires in
Yep.
GT4, and that was. I don't know if TGM and Riley ended up doing that or not. But I don't think that was the move, probably because it seemed like you only needed 10, 12 seconds of fuel, and you can't in these cars change tires that fast, 2 tires. So, yeah, you
Yeah,
see,
those are five lug nut
yeah,
tires on
yeah, and they're very long. They're very long lugs too. When people
yeah.
ask, like, why can't you change them like a NASCAR car? I mean, NASCAR
Yeah.
cars got really short lugs on it.
Yep.
So yeah, but yeah, it was Riley bookends the season, right? They go
Yeah.
beginning of the
I
season, end of the season with a win. TGM was like, oh well, hell, I'll just win the race to secure the championship. They didn't care what RS1 was doing. They're right up
yeah.
there at the front and get a podium to win it. So yeah, that was well deserved for those guys. I believe Plum had won the championship in 2013 and hadn't won one since. So, over a decade between championships for him. I also read that he became the most winning driver all time with that race, breaking a
Oh,
tie.
interesting.
So I think he has 25 career wins, and now he has like 53 career podiums or something like that. So he's the
And
all-time.
who's he tied with? Uh,
Oh, if you hadn't asked that, I could have told you. So
oh, wasn't it? Was it like Billy Johnson or something?
yes, 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 yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome for those guys. Awesome for Ted Giovannis and those guys to get They got the Bronze Cup for Ted's car, and then
They did.
his pro car wins the championship. And RS1 just comes up a little short, but still a very good season for those guys as well. And yeah, well, it's some interesting stuff happened in GT4 this year. I think you wouldn't suspect to see Turner not get a win all year. You wouldn't
Yeah.
surprising to not see the Supra ever really get a good finish this year, and not even have somebody really running it for a full season. Came and win a couple times with Hattori. So yeah, some interesting storylines over there. BGB getting a win, Carbon getting a win after Carbon destroyed their car at Mid Ohio. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it
a
was
lot,
scary.
a
That
lot of
was a
stuff
big
happened.
hit.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking about big hits, and I don't know how I didn't mention that one.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest hit. Actually, it was the biggest hit of the season in Pilot for sure.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I'm not sure how I forgot about that one, honestly. So yeah, not a lot of drama in the championships for this year, but overall, I think it was a compelling season, and I mean, not news to you or me, but I mean, some of the best racing on the planet, honestly, and especially for these types of cars in in the Michelin Pilot Challenge.
Yeah, it was a solid race to end out the year for sure. We had some good racing throughout this entire race. It felt like right from the drop of the green flag, you kind of alluded to it. But there
Your
was
favorite
lots of
your favorite moment of the season, Stu, in Pilot Challenge?
oh man. Give me a second to think on that. Give
Okay.
me a second to think on that. I know what yours is gonna be.
Well,
Um
mine's really easy. Yes, yeah.
But I wanted to point out, like, in this race, we saw a bunch of different cars towards the front, competing for the win. At the end of the day, we had Porsche finish first, an Aston Martin finished second, and a BMW finished third. And while the Aston Martin, at least the older Vantage, the non-Evo, I would say probably. Well, I guess you can't even say they dominated the season because the Porsche was very strong throughout the season as well. So,
Who
um,
has more wins, the Aston or the Porsche this year?
I
It's got
don't
to be
know.
the
I'd
Porsche, right?
I'd have to. I think I
Riley
have.
with two, RS1 with two, BGB with one. That's five alone right there.
So it was close in the manufacturers championship for them. It was 3170 for Aston Martin and 3130
Oh
for
wow,
Porsche.
very close.
Aston Martin got one, two, three, just three wins for them, where Porsche got one, two, three, four, five.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
then BMW has the other ones, right?
BMW picked up a win at Indy,
Mer-
but
Mercedes doesn't have a win all year
McLaren won at
at Laguna.
Laguna
Yeah, yeah,
Seca.
yeah. Wow,
Yep.
so no Mercedes win all year actually. Wow.
Yeah, that's actually surprising. Like I feel like the there weren't as many Mercedes on the grid this year, were there? There
No,
was
because you had Murillo running 2 to 3 cars for years
yeah,
there, and
and
Murillo has just fallen off face the earth after the end of last season.
yeah, it was.
So
I think just Windward was the only Mercedes on the grid, at least in this race.
I think
Uh,
full time, yeah.
Yeah, full
There are
time.
definitely
Yeah,
some others that came and went, but yeah,
yeah.
you're right. Yeah, they actually, yeah, yeah. I guess
Wow.
so. That is surprising.
That's interesting because you always think of. I feel like the last few seasons, it's kind of been like this for Windward in the championship, where they've had some really, really, really good runs, and there's portions of the season where they look, unstoppable. I think last year they had, there was a good handful of races where they just like absolutely dominant.
Yeah,
And then there's some absolute duds that were mixed in there as well. And they kind of had some good runs this year, but I
I
guess
think they
they
definitely
never
had some
get the victory
podiums,
lane.
but well, I mean,
Yeah,
and if you look at it, I mean, you just so much about winning a championship in this series is just how much can you negate a bad day, right? If I look at our our 6 good races, we have an average finish of 2.5. in those 6 good races for us. I mean, that's more than enough to win the championship. But you take our 4 races and the average finish was like 9.6. It killed us. We needed to have those days where we were ninth, 10th, 12th, be 6th, 7th, stuff like that. That's how you win a championship. You never, I mean, look at Robert and Harry's year last year. They never won a race, but they just had 8 podiums, and I think their worst finish was the last race of the year when they finished 7th or whatever. It's just being consistent. So, yeah, that's just the story with Windward. You could say that's the story with Vanderster probably. They had some really good runs this year, but then they had a couple races where mechanical issues just took their season apart, and TGM really just had that one bad race the whole season. And you can kind of get away with it more in GT4 because there's just such a deep field that somebody's always going to have a bad weekend. But in TCR, you saw it was tough to have that Road America finish really just, I mean, destroyed our season.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about at the top of the show what the championship situation was going into this last race, where essentially the 33 would have had to win and the 17 had to have finished 12th, because that's what the point spread was, only like 150
It was 150, I
points.
think. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
so
150, but JDC had the tiebreaker, so you need
yeah,
160. Yeah.
yeah. So you look at 150 points, and you compare, like, what does 150 point difference look like in the GS class? Well, there were 20 cars on the grid here in
Yeah.
GS. So if you finish 18th, 19th, 20th, which was, if you have a bit of a problem at the beginning of the race, is definitely not unreasonable to do. I mean, even the
Even
38.
even Daytona for us, like you can't have
Yeah. Yeah, it's
you know
true.
you look at the 33 blew an engine in that race, and that race had like, I forget how many cars, like 16 or something crazy TCR cars. If that is at CTMP, he's got 80 more points in hand right there, off of blowing an engine there. So yeah, but we'll talk about it in a second. Hopefully, I have heard some things that make me mildly confident about TCR car count for next year. Some rumbling, so I think that's good.
I agree. Yeah, we'll definitely get to that in a second. You had mentioned the moment of the season. The moment of the season, man. And I need to look at this from a neutral perspective here. I think the most impressive moment of the season for me, and just the thing that I is ingrained in my memory from the season, is, I think, the season opening race at Daytona. And
Hmm.
just I maybe, and it probably helps seeing how how like, I mean, this moment impacted the entire TCR season, but how JDC Miller were able to, they didn't turn a lap in qualifying with that car, did
Yeah,
they? They the
they
first.
broke it in FP2. Yeah.
Yeah, so the fact that they were able to, get that car to the grid to start the race was an incredible feat for them. But then the fact that they were able to go on, and with a car that was, they didn't have any laps on it since after fixing it, and go on to win that race. That was a huge moment in the season. If they don't make the grid with that car, then we're talking about essentially how, we're talking about an insane battle here going into the season finale between,
Yeah.
I mean, probably at least 3 cars in TCR. Then you actually, the JDC probably would have been in the mix at the end of the day there as well. Well, maybe, I don't know, don't really remember.
He
But
would have not had
yeah,
he would have been 350 down.
yeah,
So
it's
yeah.
true. Yeah, that would have been hard. But
But
I think that's the moment of the season for me. It was, it's easy to look back on, I guess, and see how things impacted the season, but you know, it was a good job to that entire team to get the car to the just to start that race.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm talking just about TCR and not just myself, but the moment of the season for me in TCR would be at Watkins Glen, the 17 passes Robert on the outside of the S's, and we were like,
Yeah.
"Wow, that car is dialed in, and how can we touch this thing?" It was on rails. It was going for that would they would go on to win 4 out of the first 5 with that win, and we were just like, "What are we doing here?" Like, these guys have this car just unlocked with a potential that we can't match right now. So, to me, that was the peak of JDC, just, like, showing how they had wrung all the power you could out of that car. Like, they were the ones who unlocked the new Audi and made it the car that was unstoppable. You saw other
Yeah.
people bring the car all year long. You saw Goo have it there all year long. You saw Roadshagger have it there. You saw Baker have it there. Some of those guys showed glimpses. Goo showed
Yep.
glimpses at Daytona early. Um, Roadshagger, I don't know. They ran into my car. And then yeah, they had pace they definitely had pace at Daytona. I mean, Lord, they like ran out of gas at one point, and then still were fighting for the lead again before the car would eventually have the fuel pump let go. So they showed pace from race one.
Yep.
The Baker guys come in there and show great pace on their debut race, and then at CTMP. So yeah, I mean, but JDC was just on a whole nother level of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, to me, that was the time where I was like, that car's unstoppable with what they got going on. They wouldn't win another race after that, but it wouldn't matter at that point. They were in defensive mode halfway through the season, and hats off for
Yep.
them.
Yeah. And we're probably we're not paying the respect that I think is deserved to a lot of the GS class battles as well. We saw some incredible racing in the
Oh yeah,
GS
yeah, yeah.
classes. Honestly, the problem is there were so many good battles, especially in that closing stint of the race, like the second half of races this season. I felt like we saw so many good battles. It's really hard to just nail down one that sticks out to me. There was some really good racing in
I
GS.
still love the Riley cars win at the beginning of the season on
Yep.
an insane fuel save that no one else was trying, and they're like in 16th spot or something when they try that fuel save, and they end up turning that into the win. I think that was a great one. You talk about a dominant race. I would say the McLaren at Laguna was like probably the most dominant
Yeah.
performance we saw all year. I mean, that car was just freaking on rails. I think it started from pole and never relinquished the lead the entire race. Yeah, so for sure, some great. It was awesome to see BGP get their first win, Carbon get a win. So yeah, there's a lot of great highlights in GT4 as well.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, I think there was the Carbon win, I think, was one that specifically stuck out to me as well.
Yeah, after
Because that
what
was
they had done.
after they had that destroyed car, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I think that was at Indy, a great place awesome place to get a win too. So
Yeah. RS1 as well. I think they had their first they got
first
back to
win in
victory
two
lane for the first
years.
time
Yeah,
in yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
in
and they
quite a
won
while, and they went back to back.
back. Yeah.
Yep.
So
So
yeah,
lot
yeah.
lots of good moments in GS as well.
Yep, and yeah, lots of cool stuff to go into the off season thinking about. And luckily in IMSA, your off season isn't an IndyCar off season. I mean, we're back at it shortly in
Less
January. So, it's
less
not
than 3 months.
not too long. It's actually a very busy time for the guys in the shop, as they're going to be turning the cars around. Some of the cars will go off to live other lives after this. Some new cars will come in that they'll have to get ready for Daytona and all that kind of stuff. Some customer car work. So yeah, it's a busy time for everybody at our shop in Indy. It's not and for the IMSA guys too. I was telling a couple of the officials last season at the end of the season. It's like, enjoy your off season. And they laughed and they were like, well, we're busier in the off season than we are during the season, so they have to do all that prep for Rolex, all the testing, redoing all the BOP tables, redoing the rule books, all that stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, it's for me as a fly-in guy, it's kind of slow, but for people full time in it, it can be a very busy time of year, especially with only a 3 month turnaround.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, you alluded to some of the stuff that goes on in the off season. I mean, is it, there's obviously car prep that goes on, but I guess all of the pit equipment that you guys are using, like all of this, is that sort of just maintained on an ongoing basis throughout the season, or are there large breakdowns of all the equipment in the off season? And
Yeah, for
um
sure. And then you also have the big break between. I mean, you have like a 6 week break between the first race and second race, and then you have a 2 month
yeah,
break after that, right? So
yeah,
really, you do have a 6 month window where there's only 3 weekends of racing, right? You have Roar, Daytona, and Sebring, but you really do have this big window. So, yeah, I mean, they'll do everything down to lay all of our Kiwi tile floor down and pressure wash it, down to that kind of stuff. I know there's work to be done on the haulers, all sorts of things.
yep.
So it's not just turning the cars around, which obviously that happens between every race. But yeah, it's all that maintenance, all that yearly prep, all that kind of stuff, cleaning, kind of the boring, non-flashy stuff. But that's the stuff that makes you consistent, wins championships, is having all your equipment working when it's supposed to, and having all your parts there when you need them.
And one of those guys that is working in the shop for you guys, getting some of the cars ready. Andrew Kissinger saying 2025 can't come fast enough.
Yeah, if you
Um,
want to see
uh,
what goes on in the shop, follow Andrew on Twitter. He's always posting pictures of
yep,
what they're doing.
they got the Nurburgring car in there now.
Yeah, well, he's yeah. See, he's letting the cat out of the bag, not me. But yeah, you saw that that car has the new body kit, which comes
Yep.
from Hyundai. So you can expect to see the new body kit next year on the Hyundai and in IMSA. So yeah, that's the Evo of that car, of the car we have now, basically. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. It's and it performed well at the Nurburgring as well.
So that's the
They
Nurburgring
won.
winning car. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, the 8 hours of Nurburgring. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, we've already been down that path enough times this
Won't
year, I
go on
think,
the
with
yeah. We won't get
with
on our normal soapbox about rain
with
tires.
with
Yeah.
rain.
It's
Yeah,
not gonna
well,
rain in Bahrain this weekend. You don't have to worry about that.
never never say never, I
Does
guess.
it rain in Bahrain? I don't know.
I it probably like a couple of days a year, but
Yeah, it's gotta do it at some point.
that would be wild. It did rain for some race in Bahrain. I don't know how long the WEC has been going there. I don't remember if it was an endurance race or F1, and it may have not been Bahrain. It might have been like Abu Dhabi or something, but it
Mm.
did rain and it was insane. I think it might have been Bahrain, but
I need
anyways,
to ask the Michelin guys what the shelf life is on rain tires for them to sit in the truck, because they,
true.
for us, they just drug them for pilot challenge, they just drug them around to 10 racetracks all year, and they never got pulled off the truck.
Oh,
um
well, what? Oh, yeah, you guys weren't expecting rain at Mid Ohio, were you?
no,
But
yeah,
there
yeah,
was
yeah.
some that
So
went
I
through.
mean, like, we have a couple sets of them,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
like, yeah, I wonder how long they can ride around in the truck before they just gotta scrap them. What the shelf life is of a racing rain tire. Yeah, obviously the WeatherTech guys got to burn through a few of them at Indy, but yeah,
And at the
none for us.
Glen.
Yes, that's right, and at the Glen, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I remember that one.
oh yeah, yeah. I was going. Well, we did our rain race last year at Indy, or at the Glen. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Um, okay. So I guess before our good friend that always shows up to these lives, Zombie Gut Kill,
Number one
uh
fan.
mentioned, well, why, Andrew, why does your name look familiar? Well, because like yourself, he's always he's always lurking around here in the chat on these, and so he's probably thrown some comments in before. Um, we've mentioned him from Andrew from time to time as well. So
Yeah, he's the
if
car chief on the 33 Brian Hurd
yeah,
Autosport car, and then he was on the BMW GTP car with RLL before that. So yeah,
He
Well
was.
versed IMSA mechanic there.
Indeed, he is. He's a good follow on social media, like Aaron alluded to. So I don't remember the handle off the top of my head, but if you just plug in,
He could
Andrew
put it in
Kissinger,
if he's still
you're
here and he can plug himself.
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. This is your moment to plug. But okay, so we've talked a little bit about the off season. There's some news that came out in the lead up to the season ending race at our Road Atlanta, and some pretty big news, especially for the TCR championship. A lot of the time when we're talking about new cars coming into the pilot challenge, we're talking about a new GT4 that's being introduced. It was a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, that Porsche brought the 718 GT4 into the championship. We had the BMW M4 GT4 that was brought to the championship. What is it, 2 years now, or is it three? Maybe.
Yeah, the Porsche was 2
On,
years ago. BMW was 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, the
yeah.
Aston Martin was new this year, even though it looks like the old Aston Martin.
And
Yeah.
the Ford Mustang as well was brand
Yes,
new this
Mustang was
year.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the dark horse, and now we finally get to talk about a new TCR that's coming. I mean, there have been some Evos that have been introduced in recent years, but not a
But
brand new
the
car.
household name that you all know from
Yep.
car manufacturing, Cupra, yes,
Yes.
which is
The
a
car.
which is a division of Volkswagen, and sold in Europe, and from what I'm told, sold a lot in Mexico already, and is, as they said in their press release with John, looking to expand into the U.S. market and starting their marketing campaign with the Cupra TCR program.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. If you haven't seen this
A
car,
very
or
good looking car. Very good looking
yes,
car. Yeah.
you can definitely see the Volkswagen inspired sort of appearance from this.
Look at
Uh
look at the parts it needs. Yes.
yeah, yeah. It looks very much like a Volkswagen Golf. But of course a little bit more angry, and yeah, it's going to be on the IMSA grid hopefully next year, as long as there's a buyer for it. So
Well,
we
and we can talk about another news item for TCR next year, which is the
Mhm.
return of LA Honda World under their new name, which is Precision Motorsport.
Autosport, I think
Precision
Precision
Racing.
Autosport, I think.
Yes, so something like that.
Or Precision
But
Racing LA. Yeah.
yes, there you go. They've been
Likely.
racing in the other series this year with the Supra, still
The
with
other
Ryan.
series. Are we contractually
I know.
obligated to?
But they still have Ryan Eversley, who raced with them last year in
Yeah.
TCR. And now they have, I don't know his name off the top of my head. Sorry, but the IMSA scholarship winner for this year. Oh boy, bad pre-production we did.
Oh no, I talked about this too. Like I know this.
Yeah, I could look it up, but
I got
yeah,
it right here.
yeah. So he's
Celso Neto.
there. You go. So, and it sounds like they're coming back with a 2-car effort, and it sounds, I see Zombie Gut Kill asking about Honda. From what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like it's going to be a Honda that they'll be in for next year. So, yeah, interesting to see. Yeah, so if you want to talk about this question here, Honda low car count towards the end of the year, you had only 2 full season Hondas that were starting the year, right? So you had the both Montreal Motorsports Group cars. Then we
Which were the
had,
two LA Honda World cars from last year, correct?
I don't think so. These were new.
Oh,
These were new out
okay.
of the crate. Yeah, yeah, because the LA Honda World cars were for sale right after Daytona. So no, these were actually out of a crate from Yas.
I wonder where
But
those things went.
I don't know
Not
who
to
ended up.
IMSA.
No. I don't know who ended up buying those. But So then the other Hondas you had was Hart running a part-time schedule like they always do in an older Honda. Then you had the Racer's Edge guys, which was a new program for Racer's Edge, and they said from the beginning of the year they were going to run 5 races, which they did. And then you had Victor Gonzalez, who pulled out his old Honda for Daytona. So, that car goes away after Daytona. Hart does its 5 races. They did get a new car. I don't know that might be LA Honda World's car. I don't know. But they ended up having a new one for their last race of the year, which was Indy. So you have Hart there, and then you saw
Hart had the new Honda
at Indy.
in Indy?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I didn't even catch that.
Just read the entry list a little tighter. Yeah.
Oh, no, it was, okay.
No, honestly, somebody had to point it out to me because it's FL5 or FL7 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I didn't even notice it was a new one. But then Montreal Motorsports Group, we saw Brian Ortiz in that car at the beginning of the season, and then after Watkins, you don't see him. You see a different co-driver in there for 2 races, and then they stopped running that car for the rest of the year. So and if you were in the paddock, you would see that the other car that was being run under that name, the truck doesn't even say Montreal Motorsports Group on there. So something happened over there anyway. So yeah, that ends up with the 93 being the only full season car. The only real problem with the Honda, from what I hear, is just it's expensive. I mean, it's a very expensive car. If you talk about a new TCR car, I mean, it's running near the price of a GT4 car at this point. So and I don't know how much trackside support you have from Honda either for parts and things like that. So obviously Honda is very focused on their GTP program with the Acura. I think this isn't their car, right? This is a car that a company called JAS builds over in Europe for Honda, and how much support they get and all that stuff, I'm not sure. But I know the big problem for loyal Honda guys is the price and then the availability of parts. You saw it last year with LA Honda World. They're the only people running that car. They literally had races where they couldn't enter both their cars because they didn't have.
They had to take parts off. Yeah.
Down to just at Road America, one of their cars couldn't run because they broke a damper and they had 0 spare dampers anywhere. So I would love to see more Hondas get in there. And I know Hart posted on social media that they plan to be back at Daytona. I would assume Montreal Motorsports Group had a very good back half of the season with Carl, and I did great all year. So I would assume we would see them back. But yeah, we'd love to see another full season or 2 out of them. I know some teams that are coming back that were part season entries this year that sound like they're going to be full season entries next year. Some of them are switching car brands. Those are their announcements to make, not mine. But we'll talk about them once they make them. But yeah, I hear some promising things out of some teams coming back for sure.
Yeah, and that's in addition to this, to this Cupra news as well. It's it is big for a brand to enter a championship. And
I, the one question, the zombie asked here, why do people gravitate towards the Elantra? I mean, it is the most supported. I mean, this isn't just me being a homer or anything. It is the most supported brand for sure in TCR by a long shot. I mean, you can go to the activation areas for fans at the track and see it alone there. There's a full hauler with displays there. There's
no other TCR car that's regularly getting shown off there. Yeah.
Audi obviously has shut the doors on Audi Sport, so there is no support for that car. People that are bringing in new Audis are bringing in like the last ones that they're making, period.
Yeah.
The Alpha guys have been on their own for a long time with that car. I just talked about Honda, but yeah, Hyundai is fully behind the brand, especially Hyundai North America and Hyundai Canada. You see them paying to have the in-club corrals where the in-club guys can get their cars to do track laps. Obviously, if you talk about logistics and stuff, you have Brian Hurta Autosport. acting as the hub at the racetrack. If you need parts and all those kind of things, we carry those parts. So we are the trackside support there. Whereas like Audi is supported by somebody called New German Performance, which is an independent company that it just happens to import all the parts and be the guy who's really got all the skin in the game because he's got a truck full of parts. And I always joke with him. I'm like, it's a good weekend for you when Audi wins, but it's also a good weekend for you when Audi wrecks because you sell some parts and make it worth driving your tractor trailer down here.
Yep.
So that's if you want to talk about like why teams choose certain brands, like you could ask Victor, and he would tell you why he went to Hyundai was because he wanted more support out of his manufacturer.
Yep. And Victor was running. He ran
The
at least
Honda.
a Honda. Yeah.
Yeah. I
And then
think
he
he always
switched
had.
partway through last year.
Yeah, he switched after CTMP last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's hopefully that answers some of your questions.
And you see the
Here, Zom.
same thing in WeatherTech. I mean,
Yep.
it's not just here, right? You see people switching brands. You see people, you can
Yep.
look at the support Ferrari is giving and the
I was
growth
just
that
gonna
they've
say,
had versus
yep,
McLaren, right? And they
or Porsche as well.
Yeah. Mustang. I mean, just saw the big announcement this week where a Mustang's coming back to DTM in
Yep.
Germany from the support they're getting. They're going to take it to the Nürburgring. So obviously, Ford's giving a lot of support. Um, you know, Corvette's still dabbling its foot into something it's never really done before, which is customer cars.
Yep.
But yeah, you see it in both. And you can when you go to the track, you'll see it too. I mean, if you walk through the paddock, all those trailers that say Lexus, Toyota, Ligier, all those are trackside support trailers from the
Yep.
manufacturer. Those aren't the team's trucks. And you see, you can if you want to see the most expensive trucks there. I mean, look at the parts that they carry on those trucks. Yeah, I mean, they
Yep.
normally have, at least $1 million worth of car parts on those cars on those trucks.
Yep. It's yeah, it's cool to walk around. It's kind of on the back end of most of the paddocks, or kind of tucked away somewhere. But yeah, those trackside support trucks are all they're all very legit. They're not messing around with those.
Yeah, and it's pivotal to keep customer racing going. I mean, Porsche has a whole very good business model off of customer racing with Cup cars and GT4 cars all the way up to GT3 cars, right? They have a ladder system that can take you up all the way. Ferrari has Ferrari Challenge all over the world running, you know, carbon brakes. I mean, just the amount of money you can spend in Ferrari Challenge is crazy
Oh
by
yeah,
itself. So yeah,
yeah,
it's some Mustang Challenge, all these single make series. You see McLaren jumping into it next year in SRO with their single make series. So yeah, it's the support means a lot in who you're going with your manufacturer and who you want to go race with.
yeah. Now, the, all this said, I wanna tie it back a bit to Cupra. Do you think we see a Cupra on the grid next year for Daytona?
Man, I really really hope so. I mean,
Yeah,
it I, it doesn't sound like one has been sold yet or anybody's pulled the trigger on it yet. I know they had a test at Road
they
Atlanta
did.
right after Indy with the Cupra. And it sounded like it was, very quick, but obviously it wasn't BOP'd yet, so they
Yep.
had no weight plates in it. I actually stuck my head in the car, and the first thing I said was, "There's no rear view mirror in this car," and they we were laughing. They're like, "Yeah, we didn't realize that till we went on track for the test, and GTP cars are behind us."
Oh
And
no.
I forget who it was, Andy Lally or somebody was shaking down the car for him. They're like, there's no rearview mirror in this car, and there's cars, with a 60-mile-per-hour speed difference on track
Yeah.
with it." So yeah, still some kinks to work out, but that car's been very strong. It won some championships in Europe this year. Yeah, I mean, if I had a team, I would be very tempted to do it because, when you run one car, you get a lot of special attention.
Yeah.
the BOP is completely in your hands, all the kind of type of things. So, yeah, I think somebody will pull the trigger on it. I hope so. And yeah, it'd be great to see that. And you keep Alpha in here, you keep Honda in here. You have 5 brands in TCR. I think it'd be very strong. And I've heard some really positive things about Daytona car count, but we always have a strong car count at Daytona. I just want to see it continue past Daytona.
Yeah.
We get the one-offs at Daytona, but I would really like to see TCR be able to carry, a 14 something car field to almost every race, right? Probably Laguna and CTMP are always the worst, but if we could have the other 8 races stay at 13, 14 at least, I think we'd still be in a pretty strong shape. And supposedly there's another manufacturer looking at bringing TCR to IMSA, in the not so distant future. So, obviously IMSA has a lot invested in TCR. They have a deal signed, I think, through the end of
Yeah,
26. So,
yeah, I think they extended it. I think they
yeah.
extended it recently.
So IMSA's committed to it. So, if you buy a car, it's not going anywhere. And honestly, if you want to be in endurance racing in the US with 2 drivers with a pro-am lineup, there's really not a cheaper way to get into it than in
Yeah.
TCR. I mean, you can run a solid TCR program for, under $1 million, which I know sounds crazy, but if you look at the budget compared to other things, I promise you it's reasonable compared to other programs out there.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
spend $1 million at the Rolex 24 very easily alone.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get to see some more cars on the grid, full season next year. Um, you hear murmurs and rumblings about how what could happen with some grids. So specifically the pilot challenge grid in this case, and what could be announced in the off season. We've heard a lot come out about what the WeatherTech grid is going to look like next year. But over a little bit longer, over the next few months, we'll hear some more about the Michelin Pilot Challenge grid, I think, and maybe some things that could help car count in the TCR class, because we
And I think
TCR
GT4 will
class.
GT4 will continue to stay very strong. I think you look at
Yes.
GT4 in America, it's strong
Yeah.
in pilot. It's very strong. It's SRO's strongest series in
Yep.
America. The only detractor I could say from GT4 from IMSA, I would say, is that Nissan is still non-committal to pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
They said that they weren't going to do it again in 2025. That's kind of the only disappointing GT4 news I've seen come out of IMSA. The
Yeah.
series is still really strong, though. You saw VP maybe hasn't taken off the way IMSA had hoped. They're adding GT3s to build up the car count. I was kind of surprised how low the car count was that this last weekend at Road Atlanta. But yeah, I think you'll see a very strong car count in GT4 continue. I mean, golly, we had 30 something cars at Daytona, didn't we? I mean, we just had crazy car count. I feel like
Yeah. You had I
especially
think
early in
17 in TCR. So
yeah, okay, so 17 TCR. Yeah, that was
you had
like
to be
we
pushing
had
north of 40.
45 something cars
Yeah.
at Daytona. So yeah, more Mustang, sure. I mean, they'll sell them to you for sure. You want to talk about a fun series to be in, though, is Mustang Challenge. I mean, golly, their
I don't know if
schedule.
it's fun to be a crew member in that, but
Well,
that
I mean, I guess
after
if you
after
don't
the
want to go
first
to
few
Le Mans,
races.
yeah, but I mean, they could have like so many cool tracks. I mean, their schedule for next year looks awesome.
They're going to the
Yeah,
Roval. Did you see that they
yeah.
confirmed
So they
the
added so you go to the NASCAR Coda race, I think, right, and then the
no,
NASCAR Rove.
was it
Or
is it in the NASCAR
oh no,
it
no, no,
was
it's WEC Coda Le Mans
well,
Roval at NASCAR.
that's not an official race though.
The Coda race?
No, the Le
Oh, Le
Mans
Mans,
not
yeah.
up the points
Yeah,
paying.
but they're gonna sell more cars off of that than
Oh
anything
yeah.
for people to
Yeah.
be able to go to Le Mans. I mean, that's yeah, I'm
Yeah, you
available.
got
I wanna
so you
go to
have
Le
yeah, I bet.
Mans.
You have Sebring, Laguna Seca, and then Le Mans just casually, which is
Whoops.
optional.
Yeah.
Road America, VIR, Circuit of the Americas, September 5th to 7th. I think that's a WEC support.
Yeah.
Because they were
Yeah.
there this
All
year.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what. Yeah.
And then they're supporting NASCAR at the Charlotte Roval
Yeah.
for
So
October 3rd to 5th next year.
yeah, that's yeah. So still a lot of strong stuff happening in IMSA for 2025.
Yeah.
Obviously everybody's looking at what WeatherTech's doing and how strong they're doing, but I feel like the support series still look really strong. You had you have the MX5 Cups continue to be strong. You have Mustang Challenge. I think would say they had a knockout first year, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Porsche Carrera Cup, just casually, you get to go to like 3 different F1 races if you do that schedule again next
Yep.
year. If you're in Ferrari Challenge, now you get to go be Vegas support for
Oh, really?
F1. Yeah. It's not unless I had a fever dream. I'm pretty sure that there's an exhibition Ferrari Challenge race as support for F1 this year in Vegas.
Because last year Vegas didn't allow any
Had
support.
no support races.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they found
Interesting.
a place to put an auxiliary paddock or what. But
No,
yeah,
they
so
are. Yeah, they are. You're right. They are confirmed.
okay, so yeah, so there you go. So I mean, yeah, all of the, obviously pilot, we support all rounds of the WeatherTech Championship minus the street course. So yeah, I mean it's a good position to be in, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to in the next few months.
You just raised something very interesting there. I had never really sat down and realized that Pilot Challenge doesn't go to the street course, or this year they didn't go to the street course. They went to Detroit last year, or the GS cars went to Detroit
GT4's did,
anyways.
yeah.
Yeah. Would do you think that's a smart move, or would you like to see a street course on the calendar for you guys? Whether that be Long Beach might be tough, but there's plenty of room for support. I
I
guess
mean,
it's not an IMSA weekend, but you could also look at like St. Pete as well. IMSA usually sends a sports
they go
series
to the
there.
VP Challenge did support, and I think
Yeah.
MX5 there this year. I mean,
Yes.
I don't pay the bill, so I'm not. If you knock off all the parts on the car, it doesn't come out of my paycheck. So yeah, I mean, I think it'd be awesome. You look at TCR racing. Go look at old WTCR when it was a series in the street courses that they ran, and Denny shows me some of the stuff the street courses they were running. Obviously, what's the one in China? The street course,
Oh, Macau.
Macau. Yeah, I mean they got to run that.
Yeah.
All sorts of different ones. He ran one in Wuhan. This was before Wuhan
Yeah.
was a
Prior to 2020.
yeah. But yeah, so I mean, the racing looks awesome in that. So yeah, I mean, of course, I think it would be cool, but I would run a 20-round race season if they let us.
You would run a 20 race. That's a
I
lot
mean,
of weekends.
I have fun doing it. It's not
There.
to me, it's not a job. It's just too much fun to pass up.
All
But
right, you heard it here. You heard it here. Aaron wants a 20 race season next year.
well,
That's
if I did WeatherTech and pilot again, then that's 20 races. Yeah.
that is true.
Just you
It's not
can
20 weekends, but
yeah,
it is
that's true.
20
Yeah.
races.
Don't tell my wife I said 20 weekends, actually.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
not
you
finding
meant
out.
you meant just 20 races over the season.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Maybe we'll run
Yeah.
double headers. Yeah.
Yeah, some sprint races.
No, not sprint race. Boo. No, not sprint race.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
4-hour enduro, 2-hour enduro every weekend. There you go. Yeah.
I think the last piece of news we haven't had, of course, we're still very early on in the off season right now. It's only been 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Since
2 weeks,
2.5, just over 2.5 weeks since we've had cars on track. So there hasn't been a ton of off season news that has come out for our sports series yet. But we did last weekend have a very cool event take place, and we mentioned that an IMSA support series, the Mustang Challenge, is going to be supporting NASCAR next year at the Charlotte Roval. Well, this past weekend, the Mazda MX-5 Cup, they had an exhibition race at Martinsville, which, if you are not familiar with it, or you probably heard us talking about it before, but Martinsville, of course, the short little, I think it's a half mile.
Half mile, the
Paperclip, yep. Half mile, a very small track, an oval, and the MX-5 Cup had a nice little exhibition race there on the weekend. I unfortunately did not get to watch it live, and I have not yet watched it. As
Mr.
of
MX-5 didn't watch the race, and I did.
I tried to get it going at a wedding, but I just didn't have service. So,
it's the real way to get the wedding going.
Yeah.
I watched it, and I will say it was entertaining. I mean, it was definitely different. Not a track where they can like draft at, which is really what those cars are so good at. But yeah, you kind of had
bump.
Yeah, you had the front two cars there, really battling it out. The same two guys, and forgive me, I don't remember their names off the top of my head. One of them's the Rookie of the Year guy.
Weston Workman, and I know Jared Thomas won it. I think
the kid who won the big scholarship last year. Anyway, he was in second. But yeah, there was exciting. I was surprised there's like no one in the stands. Seemingly, I don't know if it's it was very poorly attended. The TV coverage was interesting. We had one of the NBC guys calling it, not the Radio Lamar guys. So it was different.
Calvin Fish?
No, it was
it was Steve Letarte.
Yeah.
Wait, was it? No.
It was Yoakum. It was Yoakum.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Matt. Yeah. So anyway, it was definitely different. To say that they gave away a grandfather clock, though, is a stretch. Like this is a little.
The baby one.
Clock. Like this was a cuckoo clock. This wasn't the grandfather clock. But they said, you can't. The grandfather clock is safe for the big NASCAR race, and they said the clocks get smaller. And so I guess it shows you where you rank there. But yeah, to say that was a grandfather clock, I mean, it was like this big. It wasn't a very big clock. But yeah.
I mean, with the purse, though, Jared Thomas walked away with $25,000. He could buy a grandfather clock for that.
There you go. Yeah, that almost paid for his weekend, maybe. So yeah. It was different. I mean, if you've seen them race to Daytona and seen them draft on a real oval, like it's kind of seems like nothing compared to when you watch this. It wasn't the 4 wide finishes and stuff that you're used to seeing from them, but it was different. And I like to see, IMSA branching out and doing other things. So, maybe they could find a place for them to do a support race at a bigger event, NASCAR weekend or something like that.
I mean, there was
run on a mile and a half, just let him.
You're an oval track as a support race. Okay.
Yeah. Why not? Let him go run at Kansas or some whatever random oval that they go to, Phoenix, something like that. Yeah.
That might
Texas Motor Speedway.
Okay. You see, I was thinking of something that maybe would be more likely. I cannot imagine how the tire wear would be at a mile and a half track. I was thinking like, the Chicago race.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. They could put on a decent show at Chicago.
I was thinking Talladega. See, you're just not thinking big enough.
Yeah, Talladega.
Imagine that. You'd be like 6 wide in those little cars. They were 4 wide in NASCAR at Talladega. You could easily go 6 wide.
But at that point, you might as well just make the MX-5 support races at the Rolex. You might as well just make them run on the oval if you're going to do that. Like, they're not going to get going any faster at Talladega than they will at Daytona. Those things are going to be
they're already sounding like they're about to explode. Yeah.
I wonder what car owners would think of that. Those front bumpers are already chewed up enough at the end of the races.
The
drafting. If
those cars go through some body work, it's entertaining.
Hey, there's some body work and some zip ties, that's for sure. Yeah. All right, do we? We're at the what? We're just approaching the hour and a half mark. Do we have any other? We got had the questions pile in from Zombie Gut Kill. He's, if you happen to be listening to this and you run a Mustang Challenge team, we have the tire prep guy for you
It's
right
a
here.
it's a grown man with the name Zombie Gut Kill that's ready for it. Yes.
He's ready to gut some tires for you. So,
Yeah.
um,
But yeah, I mean, before we wrap it up, I just do want to thank everybody. I mean, this was just a silly idea I pitched to Stu, like just on a whim at whatever track we were at, and we kind of threw it together pretty quickly, and it's been fun. It's nice. I see people at the track tell me that they watch it and listen to it going down the road, and all that kind of stuff. So we appreciate the support, and it is a long off season, but we promise we'll do something in the off season. I've been asked a lot if we're going to do interviews and people that want to be interviewed, so maybe we'll do some taped interviews or stuff like that, for maybe not some lives, but just some interviews of some guys in the pilot garage. But we'll certainly have
or the other garages as well.
Oh
There's
yeah, for sure. I mean,
we
I
can,
know a decent amount of people in the other ones. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll for sure still be putting some stuff out over the winter, and then gearing up for Daytona here. It'll be here
Oh,
before you know it. We get through. Canadian Thanksgiving was over a long time ago, so you're already past
well, I
Thanksgiving.
wasn't. Whoa. A long time ago, it was going on at Road Atlanta. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
I gave up Canadian Thanksgiving to be at the track. So
Yeah.
actually,
So
I gave up Canadian Thanksgiving to be in a car on the drive back from the track. But
there you go. So yeah, but yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody, because it's I have fun doing this, and Stu begrudgingly does it with me. So yeah, it's good time.
yeah, I'm here now that we're into the winter months. We were talking about when we were going to do this, and you were like, "Oh, when are you available?" And I said, "Well, I have curling on,
Curling.
this day, and this day. The most Canadian thing
I got 4 kids
imaginable."
that got to do like 20 activities on all these nights, and you're the one who's busy because you better be in the Olympics next time for curling. The amount of curling you're doing.
If there's a beer drinking as an Olympic sport for curling, then maybe could get that done. It's a very social sport.
Look, zombie gut kill's he's not gonna be working, he's gonna be driving.
I was
Hey,
just yeah,
look
I
at
was
this.
thinking that too.
Do
It-
you how what's your budget? Because I got a TCR car that you could get in if the money's right for next year.
There you go, zombie butt kill. You're
Yeah.
zombie butt kill, zombie gut kill. You're gonna be Save that. Take it to the Michelin Pilot Challenge.
Yeah, there we
And
go.
there you go.
I
There
got
you go.
10K, he says. Well, there that's a start. We invest
That's,
it.
yeah. Yeah. Get some sponsorship. Yeah. All right. Before we go too off the rails here, yeah, it's been a. I mean, when did we start this up? It was in the lead up to Watkins Glen or something like that.
Yeah,
Maybe coming out
after
of.
Mid Ohio, a good one to. Well, that wasn't the plan to
That's
start it
true.
after Ohio, but that
That's
was a
true.
good one.
That's true. We've had
Yeah.
plenty of. We've had some technical issues along the way. We had storms going on. We've had
You've
me
ridden my
wildly.
emotional roller coaster of the season with me from the high to to the low, and then back on the uptrend here. Yeah.
This is the best one recently because I'm not at like 4 FPS this week, and you're not in the middle of a thunderstorm. So
Yeah,
it's
or
been a good way to end
hurricane.
the season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or a hurricane.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there'll be more to come over the off season. Keep your eyes peeled to various social media. You can follow Aaron at Pfeiffer TCR on various social media platforms. I
Just
don't
follow me on
think that's.
Instagram. That's the only place to really follow me.
I
That's
was gonna
worth
say, I
anything.
know your Twitter account is not that handle,
No.
because every time I go to tag
No,
you, I'm
I
like,
think I
"What is
changed
it?"
it. I changed it because you said it wasn't. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure I think it is Pfeiffer, and maybe I didn't. Maybe I made that up.
Maybe you did.
Yes, it is. It is now.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
there's
Okay.
just
So
not
you
any tweeting going on.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
can go and you can go follow him. If you're following this show, you probably know how to keep up with all of that. We'll be oh wait. Okay, one final thing. Zombie Buck Hill is looking for dinner options around VIR. Anything that comes to mind?
Are you staying in Danville or are you staying in South Boston? That's the real question. Because the
Give us both. Is there what's your
uh,
top spot?
nah, in VIR you like Texas Road. South Boston. Ooh. Um, okay, I've stayed at a Quality Inn one time in South Boston that has a restaurant attached to it that had like a crazy karaoke night going on like a Friday night, and it was like 90s grunge and like 2000 emo like karaoke, and it was raging in this place, and it's whatever is the restaurant attached to the Quality Inn. But yeah, South Boston, you might as well yeah, I was about to say you might as well go to Danville and go eat at a chain restaurant. Go to Olive Garden or something in Danville, and then go to the casino in Danville. There is the brand new Caesars Danville, where you can go play craps and roulette and all those things.
There you go. You have an entire weekend of activities laid out for you in
Yeah.
addition to your
How, how
racing
how about you
school.
just sleep and study your video from today and get ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, you got karaoke, you got racing, and you can wrap it all up with the casino for any of the 10K that you have left over
Yeah,
from your
for
budget.
10 invest your 10K into. I'll get you a driver coach. He'll charge you a very reasonable rate, and we'll get you going.
Or you can turn that into potentially a Michelin Challenge ride for next season, or you could lose it all.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Oh,
that's
yeah,
up
that's
to you.
true. Yeah, just take it to the casino, take the 10K, and just turn it into a couple 100K, and get you a couple races under your belt at least.
Bingo, there we go. Easy peasy. Easy peasy.
Uh, all
All
right.
righty, let's wrap this up. It's been a pleasure as always. Like I said, we'll be back here with some off-season episodes as well. But until the next one, I guess that's it. I don't know how to end
See ya.
this.
Return of the finger guns. We got them back on TV last race.